Hey everybody, I'm Dinosaur George, this is Allosaurus, and you are watching Paleo Files.
Interested in some STURRDRUM Studios and Paleo Files merchandise? Check out our links for that in the description down below. Don't forget, if you have any questions regarding the species profile in this episode, please feel free to contact STURRDRUM Studios at askpaleo@yahoo.com. Also check out our Instagram page. You can find the link below. Thank you. Now, on with the episode.
Was initially believed to be a pack.
Follow me as I am your tour guide through this adventure.
To pounce on and pin down prey.
Okay, so we have a breach on the Allosaurus. They're out. One of them's chasing me right now. And we're gonna continue this tour right here with Dinosaur George. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I gotta go.
Extracting species profile.
There's another one.
Something's wrong.
Hey, this is Dinosaur George, and you are listening to Paleo Files. The different lizard, otherwise known as Allosaurus, was a magnificent genus of carnivorous theropod dinosaur. It lived approximately 155 to 145 million years ago during the late Jurassic. The name Allosaurus means different lizard, and that alludes to its unique concave vertebra. This large bipedal predator had a big skull equipped with dozens of sharp serrated teeth. Each premaxilla, that's the bones that form the tip of the snout, held 5 teeth with D-shaped cross sections. And each maxilla, that's the main tooth-bearing bones in the upper jaw, held between 14 and 17 teeth. The number of teeth does not exactly correspond to the size of the bone. Each dentary, that's the tooth-bearing bones of the lower jaw, had between 14 and 17 teeth with an average count of 16.
The skull and lower jaw of Allosaurus were relatively kinetic, which means that they had joints that actually permitted motion within certain units of the skull. In the lower jaw, there was a certain flexibility or articulation between the dentary, surangular, and angular bones within the lower jaw, giving the jaw the ability to kind of bow outwards and increase the animal's bite radius. It is also believed that there was a bit of articulation between the mandible, the lacrimal, and the jugal bones of the upper jaw, allowing for a sort of tension release in the skull whenever this animal was to bite down in order to help prevent fractures and or breaks within the skull.
The teeth became shorter, more narrow, and curved towards the back of the skull, with every tooth having a saw-like edge. This made the animal's bite act more like a boa constrictor or an anaconda. And once it bit into the prey, the animal had a hard time escaping. As the prey struggled to escape, the teeth would dig deeper into the flesh. Allosaurus had a relatively weak bite force of around 8,724 newtons, but the skull itself could withstand upwards of 55,000 newtons of vertical force against the tooth root.
Thanks to the specialized neck muscles of this animal, the animal would have been able to drive its head down. This is kind of motion is sort of known as ventral flexion. Doing this into large prey like a hatchet. Hold it in place and then pull the head straight up and back with the neck muscles along with the body, tearing a chunk of flesh from the prey, similar to that of birds of prey of today. Though another theory is that this may have been how the animal fed, but not how it hunted.
The skull was light enough to attack lightweight animals like ornithopods, but it was also strong enough for high-impact ambush attacks against larger prey like stegosaurids or sauropods.
Allosaurus also had an optimal gape angle, meaning the comfortable amount of an angle that the mouth could open to. At an approximate same as the Tyrannosaurus Rex, this angle would have been about 28 degrees. But the Tyrant Lizard King only had a maximum gape angle, the amount that the mouth could open, of about 63.5 degrees, as Allosaurus had a maximum gape angle of 79 degrees. This gave Allosaurus an advantage, as it would hunt for large prey such as sauropods and other large variants of herbivores at the time, allowing them to be able to grip around their prey in order to take it down.
The skull of Allosaurus limited its potential binocular vision to about 20%, which is slightly less than modern crocodilians. Inside the lacrimal of the skull are depressions that may have held glands, such as salt glands. Inside the maxilla were sinuses that were much better developed than more basal theropods, like, for instance, Ceratosaurus. The roof of the brain case was thin to improve thermal regulation for the brain and would have been able to regulate heat from the antorbital fenestras as well. The large skull sat on top of a short but strong neck containing 9 vertebrae. The front nasal bones on the skull led into the horns that rested over the eyes. The horns were comprised of fragile bones, but were probably covered with a thick sheet of keratin. These horns could have been used for display or to attract mates.
Using the subadult specimen from Wyoming, computer modeling and analysis found that the particular specimen had to have weighed anywhere between 3,100 and 4,400 pounds, making it a fairly large predator at the time.
Allosaurus fragilis, the best-known species, had an average length of 8.5 meters or about 26 feet, with the largest Allosaurus specimens estimated to be about 9.7 meters or 32 feet long, and weight has been estimated at around 2.3 tons. Dr. John Foster, a specialist of the Morrison Formation, suggested that 2,200 pounds is a reasonable weight for a large adult Allosaurus, and most individuals with an average size thigh bone had probably weighed around 1,500 pounds. The forelimbs of Allosaurus were short in comparison to its hind limbs, only about 35% the length of the hind limbs in an adult. They held 3 fingers tipped with large, strongly curved and pointed claws. These arms were powerful, and the forearms were somewhat shorter than the upper arm. The innermost finger or thumb was the largest and most diverse from the others. These claws were like large meat hooks that could have grabbed and slashed prey. The arms were also suited for grasping prey at distances, or they could hold the animal up close when it fed. There are an estimated 45 to 50 tail vertebrae. Both the neck and anterior back vertebra had large hollow spaces similar to those found in today's modern theropods, the birds. These hollow spaces are interpreted as having air sacs used in respiration. Allosaurus would have probably had to eat about 130 pounds of meat every day. It may have relied on ambushing its prey due to its arrangement on its metatarsals. It could have had short, fast bursts of speed when ambushing, but it would not have been able to maintain that speed for a long time. The top speed of Allosaurus has been estimated at about 19 to 34 miles per hour.
The metatarsals within Allosaurus were only used for short distance running due to the friction that would have occurred between the metatarsals. This friction created an issue for the animal and would have caused it to tire after a short period of time at full speed. Though it is thought that the Allosaurus may have been able to do rather more long distance strides in order to keep up with the prey that they were chasing out on the open savanna. Evidence has actually been shown through the stress fractures within the metatarsals of Allosaurus, along with stress fractures in the metacarpals and the radius and ulna of the forearm, showing that it may have somewhat pounced onto large prey in order to take it down, similar to that of African lions today.
The enormous claws on its feet could have been used to disembowel its prey. Now, there's been evidence of Allosaurus as an active predator. A specimen found in Wyoming was discovered with a Stegosaurus tail spike wound in its pelvis, and a Stegosaurus was discovered with a neck plate that had a U-shaped wound that correlated very well with the snout of an Allosaurus. Sauropods would have also been likely candidates for the predators to hunt or to scavenge on.
It is quite possible Allosaurus could have also been a flesh grazer, only taking chunks of flesh from sauropods, enough to sustain its need for survival, and let the sauropod kind of go on to live another day, almost like a flesh-eating parasite. The reasoning behind this is that a relative of Allosaurus within the same clade, known as Giganotosaurus, was theorized to have used the same tactics.
The skeletal structure of Allosaurus is very resilient. Numerous specimens have been found with broken and healed bones. There's even been skulls found with deep bite wounds from other members of its species. The estimated lifespan of Allosaurus was about 25 years, and they grew to adult size by about age 15.
Hey everyone, this is Rex from STURRDRUM Studios, and I just wanted to take a moment in this episode to thank both Dinosaur George and Koda for their contribution toward Paleo Files. And if you haven't checked them out already, Dinosaur George does have a YouTube channel. It's called Dinosaur George LLC. He's got some great videos, great content, and even some really good podcasts. So, without further ado, let's move on with the episode.
The type specimen for Allosaurus fragilis was discovered in the late 1800s near Cannon City, Colorado by Benjamin Mudge. Mr. Mudge was an employee for Othniel Marsh during the Big Bone Wars, and shortly after they discovered that specimen, they moved on to Wyoming to do field work for several months before they came back to the area to excavate in the Morrison Formation even further. The Morrison Formation is a series of mudstones, clay stones, and siltstones, and even conglomerates and sandstones that were deposited within a floodplain environment across Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, and South Dakota. Although the South Dakota portion does not yield nearly as many fossils as the other areas, with Colorado being the richest section of the Morrison Formation. Allosaurus shared its environment with a number of other animals, including the small ornithischians like the Ophnelian and the Dryosaurus, the smaller theropod dinosaur, the Ceratosaurus, which is easily recognizable by having a horn on the end of its nose, and the massive sauropods like the Brachiosaurus, Plopkis, and Apatosaurus. The vegetation at that time would have been a little bit more tropical as far as what we're used to. You would have seen a lot of ferns and and cycadioids, which are similar to our modern sago palm, kind of like a fern tree. There also would have been a fair amount of conifers, or what we know, most people know conifers to be pine trees and fir trees and whatnot. The environment would have been fairly wet, with rains being a common occurrence. Nobody cares about Stegosaurus.
Allosaurus is my favorite dinosaur because when I was a kid, one Christmas I got a bag of dinosaur toys. And in those toys was an Allosaurus figure, and it looked so cool. It was aggressive looking, it had claws. That became my favorite dinosaur, and so when I grew up, Allosaurus was who I liked. And the first dinosaur fossil I ever found in my life was the tailbone of an Allosaurus. It was meant to be.
Thank you for watching this episode of Paleo Files. If you liked the episode, we would really appreciate a thumbs up. If you're interested in keeping up to date with future content, consider subscribing to our channel and checking out the STURRDRUM Studios official Facebook page. The link can be found in the description below. Want to know how to support the channel and receive some awesome perks? Then check out our STURRDRUM Studios Patreon page and consider becoming a patron. This link is also provided in the link below.